Hello, welcome back to The Road to Episode 7, my ongoing series where I chart the road to the release of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens on December 16th, 17th and 18th, 2015, depending on where you are in the world. We're talking about the third TV spot, which isn't really the third TV spot, but it's the third one I'm covering, and the third one that I deem to have enough new footage in it to sit down and talk about and break down and show you screenshots of. So, without any further ado, right into it. We have a shot of one of the First Order Stormtroopers during what seems to be some kind of like village attack, which we've seen bits and pieces of, and I believe is going to play some sort of a pivotal role in the first little bit of the movie. So yeah, just a little shot of that. Then we have a shot of Finn, and it seems to be on this little village. Maybe it just seems like a nighttime kind of setting, and I don't know whether the village is on Jakku or whatever. And he's saying very confidently to someone, "You don't know a thing about me. You know what I've been through. We need to run." Seems like a couple of lines spliced together from different parts of the film, but we get more of a feeling of Finn in this trailer. We see another shot of the destruction of Maz Kanata's castle, if that is what I believe it is. It just seems to be a continuation of the shot in the previous TV spot, where it looks up from Rey's perspective, and now in this TV spot we see her looking to the left and seeing more of the destruction. It looks like possibly Kylo Ren's ship just beyond the castle on the left there, or at least some kind of a First Order ship. Then we have Finn looking up. Don't know where he is. He could probably be on that forest planet. He's looking up at something. I don't think it's the castle, although it kind of makes it look like that in the TV spot. We see a shot of Kylo Ren in the ruins of the castle. And then we see some more shots of the Falcon flying through Jakku. Again, cannot wait for that scene. This is probably one of the best parts of the TV spot, is where we see a First Order Stormtrooper. And I think I can safely say this is the first time we have ever seen a Stormtrooper show any kind of personality. The Stormtrooper stands there. It sees that Finn has got his lightsaber. You can see on the right there, the blue of his lightsaber blade is glowing. So the Stormtrooper pulls out this thing. It's attached to his arm, and he's got his hand on it. He pulls it out, and he's just got like a badass pose, and then he just extends it, just like bang, and he's just like, yeah, let's do this. Never seen any Stormtrooper show this kind of fire before. You know, like he's almost like, bring it on, motherfucker. Like, and then Finn is just looking at him like, all right then. Brings up his lightsaber, let's do this, and it brings a certain amount of credibility to my theory, which isn't completely my own. I've read things and stuff, but I kind of go along with it that the Stormtroopers have been trained in the First Order more than the Stormtroopers from the Empire in the original trilogy, including with lightsabers or with these deflective kind of staffs that they've got. And so yeah, and then we see Finn running towards him with the lightsaber and slashing it over, and they have a little battle, and we see another shot of that in the oh god, what was it now, the international trailer or something like that. I mean, there's been so many of them now. We see another shot of the Falcon, which I believe is a new one. Not quite the same shot as in the other trailer. And then this is probably the coolest bit by far, for many reasons. First of all, we've got more Han Solo dialogue. But I love how we see the background. We've got Chewie in the background, and just the idea of like Han and Finn and Chewie going on a little adventure. And the room just looks very Star Warsy, like the white lights on that wall, and the the curves of the door in front of Chewie look very reminiscent of the Death Star and stuff. So just really cool kind of, again, fan service, but you gotta love it. And Han says to Finn, "You sure you're up for this?" And then we see Finn, just look at his face. He says, "Hell no." He ain't ready for this. And I like that. I like the vulnerability that Finn is showing as a character. Like when we see him face off with Kylo Ren, he looks shit scared. And so I like how we saw him say, you don't know a thing about me, which is presumably before all the stuff starts kicking off. And now we're seeing that he just, he's in deep. I feel there's going to be a lot of complexity to his character that I'm really excited to see on screen. When he says, hell no, he says, you up for this? Hell no. Loads of people have been like, oh, they've ruined it. They've ruined the film. Like, I can't believe J.J. Abrams has done this to us, putting swearing in a Star Wars film. It doesn't fit. It wasn't in the originals. And, saying hell like that is blasphemous and everything. A few people replied and said, about that time when Han Solo said in The Empire Strikes Back, "I'll see you in hell." And they were like, oh yeah. Yeah, people are trying to jump on anything with this. It's unbelievable. Hell no, really? Oh my god. Yeah, they've ruined the film with hell. This is an awesome shot. I loved it. It's presumably the Falcon spinning around and BB-8 is rolling around the circular corridor. I love that shot. It's really fun. And something that I haven't talked about is that in, I think, the international trailer, we heard BB-8 for the first time, or we heard like an extended amount of BB-8 kind of beeping and communicating, and it's he or she. Again, we don't know if BB-8 is a female. Not that it matters, but BB-8 sounds a little bit like Mogwai, Gizmo. You know, the Mogwai from Gremlins. Sounds a little Gizmo-esque, I thought, but with a digital kind of electronic feel. Just my opinion on it. And then we have a shot of Finn. Oh, I forgot what he was saying now, but he's like, I think he's just like woo like that. He's obviously blown up some TIE fighter or something, and yeah, that's one hell of a screenshot right there. Again, apologies to John Boyega. It's the best I could do with that screenshot, but yeah, obviously Finn is going to be behind the gun of the Falcon during the Jakku chase scene, which is pretty cool. And that's the end of the trailer. There's another shot, and the end of the shot for this TV spot, not trailer, as I just said. The end of this third TV spot that I'm covering was the end shot of the first teaser trailer of the Falcon flying towards the TIE fighters. So yeah, it seems very likely that Finn and Rey are piloting the Falcon through that scene. So that is it for the TV spots up to now. I'm sure there's going to be more. I don't know whether I should even cover them. Let me know if you're bored of these by now. But I like doing them. And I know I said a week ago to a friend of mine, Claire, I said, do you know what, I'm done with the TV spots. And then the new one came out and I watched it immediately. You just can't help yourself, you know. But at least I'm not doing reactions anymore. I mean, I can't keep up with that. No chance. Now, finally, I wanted to talk about George Lucas. And, you know, when he decided he was stepping away, you know, from Star Wars, and he said that he was passing over his story outlines to the people who are taking over Lucasfilm, people who are going to make the new sequel trilogy and stuff, I was really encouraged by that. But we now know there's going to be an interview, I think, by CBS, I want to say, in December. An interview with George Lucas is going to come out. They've released a preview from it. Before we get to that, actually, he did an interview with Vanity Fair, as did J.J. Abrams. J.J. Abrams had an iPad and he was holding it like this, and famous people were asking him questions. And so he's holding it there and you can see their faces, they ask the questions, and suddenly George Lucas pops up, and J.J. Abrams is like, oh god. And George Lucas is like, well, I just want to ask J.J., whatever happened to Darth Vader's grandkids? And J.J. Abrams is like, oh George. You know? And then we saw that interview with George where he spoke to Vanity Fair, and they were asking him, you know, just things about Star Wars. What Star Wars character would you be? And he's like, oh, yeah, Jar Jar Binks. You know, and they said, are you going to direct any more films? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to direct more films. I'm just not going to show anyone, because you know, you try and make a movie, and all people do is criticize you, and it gets to the point where you can't do what you want, because other people are telling you you can't do it or you shouldn't do it, and that's not the way he works. And he said that he wants to go back to experimental films like he did with THX 1138 before Star Wars. And the interviewer off camera says, I love that film. And he said, oh, well, you were the only one. I mean, he just seems very bitter, and it's just really sad to see. And then the snippet of this CBS interview that came out yesterday, he's talking about it, and he's saying how, okay, I said to them, you know, the story is of, you know, the grandfather, you know, Darth Vader, the kids, Luke and Leia, and then the grandkids. That was always the story from the very beginning. And I showed them what I had, and they said, we don't want to do that. You know, Disney said, we want to make a film for the fans. You know, just broke my heart that they would say to George, you know, no, we want to do something people will like. You know, so we're not using your ideas. We're going to make up our own. You know, we're going to go in our own direction. George Lucas said they're going to do their own thing, and you know, I don't think they want me involved to begin with. He said, I don't think they want me around, and it's probably a good thing, because if I was involved, I just fuck everything up anyway. He literally said that I would fuck everything up, you know, and he's saying it in a tone of just like, you know, people think he's gonna fuck everything up, and honestly, it just like it hurt my feelings in a way. I felt so bad for him. You know, he created Star Wars. Sure, he lent from different things, Flash Gordon, Akira Kurosawa, classic mythology, but it's his baby, Star Wars. And he made those original 3 movies. I mean, he directed and wrote the first film, and he produced the other ones. And then the prequels happened, and he was solely behind them. They rest on his shoulders, and people slated him for it. They mercilessly slated him for it, and it drove him out of the movie business. You know, fans were so burnt by the prequels, which I still think is unwarranted. I still think people put the original films on too high of a pedestal, and they're just like, if a film doesn't get close to that, then it's garbage, and we hate it, and you're a horrible person, George, don't make any more films. And you won. The people like that, you won. You know, you pushed them out of making films, and I hate that. I fucking hate that, because you have a filmmaker, a storyteller, who could potentially make more stories, and sure, he could make like another 5 films in his life, and they could all be just okay. But there's a chance that there could be another great film there. I always feel like it's worth making something than not making something. And he's not going to be making something. Well, he is, but he's not going to show anyone, because he's afraid now of people just ripping the shit out of him. And I think that's just horrible, you know. Now, I will say, readily admit, I'm glad that we're getting the movies we're getting now, with the people behind them, you know, who are fans, who grew up with the films. I wouldn't want to see George writing and directing the next 3 films. I don't think he could handle it at this point in his life. I don't think he's interested either in doing that. But I wish they would have taken his stories into consideration, or at least, I don't know. Maybe they are. I mean, he says he doesn't know. He just doesn't know. And then he said, the thing with Star Wars is, it goes along with that rule of life. If you break up with someone, you don't call them, you don't go around their house and see what they're doing, you don't think about what they're doing now, you just move on. Done. Again, it's sad to me, because he had a vision from the beginning, and yeah, he went back on that vision and tried to fix it and tweak it when it didn't really need to, but he felt that he needed to. And I feel like that was his right as a filmmaker. As much as it frustrates me, as much as I hate the original trilogy changes, with a passion, I think, what is wrong with you, George Lucas? But it's his vision. It's his story, and he should have the right to present it the way he wants. Now, I can go and watch the original unaltered trilogy, because that's my choice. And he can do what he wants with trilogy, because that's his choice, and he owns ownership over those stories, because he created them, right? Same with the prequels. Same with the prequels, you know. And I love the prequels. I don't think they're great movies. They definitely don't match up with the originals, but I just think that the amount of hate for that is unnecessary. And I'm talking about that in my Reviewing an Empire series, which I'm trying to finish, but it's very hard to find time for that. But thank you for the people who watched the first episode. The second one's coming very soon, within the next week or so, I'd say. But yeah, he had a vision, and it was crushed by committee. And it's a bad analogy, but it is almost like J.R.R. Tolkien, you know, again, imagining a fictional version of history, but imagine that he came out with Lord of the Rings, just like he did back in the 40s or whatever, or the 50s. Writes Lord of the Rings, comes out, amazing, masterpiece, everyone loves it. And then he says, you know, I'm going to go back and do a prequel trilogy about Aragorn. So he goes and does that. And, you know, it's good, but compared to Lord of the Rings, it just doesn't even compare, you know, and people are disappointed with it. They're like, why can't you just do Lord of the Rings again? You know, we wanted that again. You know, this is, you know, and people overreact and then say, you know, oh, you're a terrible writer now, you know, what you did before doesn't count, you know, that was just a fluke, that whole Lord of the Rings, you know. And he's like, oh, alright, well, I'll just stop writing then, you know. And Tolkien never writes again. And then a young author says, you know what, I'm going to do a sequel to the Lord of the Rings. And because I'm a fan of the Lord of the Rings, it's going to be better than the prequel trilogy. Because, you know, I know what Lord of the Rings is. And everyone's like, oh, this is going to be great, this is brilliant. And Tolkien's just like, well, I guess I just got to, you know, forget about Lord of the Rings for the rest of my life. Again, it's a bad analogy, because, you know, George Lucas by no stretch is anywhere near the genius of Tolkien as a storyteller and a writer, but it's the same kind of thing. Whether you agree with, you know, what they're doing with it now, or you don't, or whatever. Again, I think that George Lucas, it's probably good that he's not involved in these films, but just to know that he's so removed from it now that he feels that, you know, I don't know, it's upsetting to me. It really is. I just feel like the artist's vision has been completely compromised here, and has been, again, crushed by committee, and I just think that's kind of sad, even though I'm looking forward to the new films, because they look great, and they look like, you know, it's going to be a bit of the old, bit of the new kind of thing, but I just feel I feel down about it. It really bummed me out, to be honest. But then again, I saw an interview with him in April where he said, you know, oh, well, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing with it. I want to see it on the big screen. So maybe I just read into his comments too harshly, but the CBS interview is much more recent, and maybe he's just not feeling it now. I don't know. But I have a lot of respect for George Lucas, a guy who pioneered the industry in a lot of ways. You know, you talk about CGI digital effects, talk about Pixar. You know, came from him. You know, he came through the technology that he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. You know, and people can say, "Oh, the CGI and the special editions were terrible." Well, he was pushing his team and putting money into people developing those effects that have now become the parts of your new favorite movies. You know, digital film technology. Shot episode 2 on digital video. You know, people thought he was crazy. What do people do now? They all film digitally. You know, he deserves more credit than he gets, and I think you look at the original Star Wars, that is his story, and yeah, I'm sure other people were involved in certain aspects of the music, obviously wasn't his, and you know, it's just, I don't know, I just had to rant about that, I really did, I had to get off my chest, so I'm sorry this was a long one, but big George Lucas fan, really sad that it seems to have gone this way for him, but I'm still very excited about the new films, obviously, but I just wish that, I don't know, that they could have gone in the way they wanted to go, but still taking his story into consideration. I don't know. It just feels a little cheap to me in a way. But that's it. There's nothing more to say. I'm blabbering at this point and not making much sense and reiterating myself, which is never good. So yeah, I'll just end this now. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts without too much hate. I don't want to incite a riot here, but by saying I love the prequel. I love the prequels. I do. It's not just I like them, I love them. There's some pretty shit stuff in them, which again you can see in my Reviewing an Empire series. Go check out episode 1 if you haven't seen it before. It's the most extensive video I've ever made, and I'll probably put a link to that in the description now, just for anyone who's watching these videos. I'll keep putting the Reviewing an Empire episode links in the description so you can check that out. Episode 2 will be coming very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
I don't know, Pod Stefan.